Okay, so what we're looking at here is the inside of a 4-barrel Rochester carburetor. Seems that YouTube user thestuffz with a Z is having a little bit of issues with his 83 Park Avenue. Okay, so what I got here is my 85 Caprice with the air cleaner off. The choke plate is open. The engine hasn't moved. Hasn't been started for a week and a half since the last time I tried on my rims. The choke plate is open, meaning that I shut the car off with the engine fully warm. Now, go over here. I'm not even going to get in the car, just so nobody thinks that I'm screwing with their heads. You get a little bit of that. The engine will not start. So normally, you would give it choke. If it's an improperly adjusted choke, you would pump the crap out of it. Well, let me show you what I do. I'm going to take the throttle here. I'm just going to blip it so that the cam is on the first step. Okay, so watch carefully. There. The choke is now on the first step, the high idle cam. The choke plate has closed. No more than a dime's width is open. If it's totally closed, it will flood itself out. Once the engine starts, the electronic thermostatic spring will start opening up. And you will also notice, if it is properly adjusted, that it is no longer resting against the regular idle. It is up higher a bit. So, go over here. Okay, so now I'm going to start the car without getting in it, so nobody thinks I'm screwing with their heads here. Okay, so right now the engine has warmed up enough that the choke can come off. Now, you shouldn't have to pound it to knock it off. Simple taps to do it. It is now at regular idle speed. riser is now open. Now I pull the outside air into the carburetor. You also want to make sure that your heat riser pipe here is also in good condition. If not, your choke will not operate properly. You won't be able to knock your choke off if this isn't working. You might want to inspect that every now and then too. But that basically sums it up. There's nothing fancy about it. But to YouTube user, the stuffs, you might want to check out your choke, because pumping a car 30 times is definitely not right. I find that quite wasteful. Half-hour job to adjust it. I usually keep track of those pretty good. Usually when I do buy these vehicles, I remember I bought this one, I had to pump it 30 times to get it started too. A half hour later, after adjusting it, I never ever had to do it again. And this car sat all winter and I never had to pump it. So, and it still started good. And now with the engine warm, you blip the throttle, the choke plate stays open. You can see that it's resting on the regular idle cam. And adjusting the choke cam is also an easy. If I get this back off here so I can show you. It's also it's adjusting your choke idle is also an easy job too. I'll have to remove this for your secondaries, your 4 barrels. You can see your cam right in behind there. So there's 2 little Torx bolts that's holding that in, and there's a vacuum hose on the bottom of this right here. And you can see your secondaries right in there. The camera can see it, I don't even know. You can see it right there. Those need to be adjusted too if your car stalls when you get it started, because your choke also needs the high RPM in order to maintain its job. Always inspect your heat riser tube and your vacuum hoses. After owning so many cars with nothing but carburetors, pretty straightforward. It's the only thing I understand. When it comes to fuel injection, it's a foreign language to me, so completely foreign, different language. And usually when you adjust it too, you don't ever have to worry about it again. I put on 90,000 kilometers on this car since I bought it, so I've never had to deal with it ever since. So YouTube user the stuffs, I'm going to read you a page out of a Haynes repair manual. You might already have one. Usually when I start running my mouth, things are a lot confusing for a lot of people. But in my mind, I understand all of it because I've done it for so long. Carburetor choke check. The choke operates only when the engine is cold, so this check should be performed before the engine is started for the day. So, you know, when you wake up in the morning before you even start it. Open the hood, take the top plate of the air cleaner assembly. It's usually held in place by a wing nut. I think everybody knows that. If there are any vacuum hoses, must be disconnected. Make sure you tag the hoses for your reinstallation. Well, you don't have to do that. There's I think everybody knows how to put that on. Place the top wing nut aside, out of the way, yeah. Look at the center of the air cleaner housing. You'll notice a flat plate at the center of the carburetor opening. See illustration. So right there. What I've shown you just a few minutes ago on my 85 Caprice. This also is for my 83 Buick Park Avenue. So it would, so this book applies for your car as well. Press the accelerator pedal to the floor. The plate should close completely. So kind of like what mine did. Technically you should only have to tap it and it should close completely. I mentioned earlier that it should be a dime's width, but once the engine starts it should be a dime's width between the opening of the plate. So start the engine while you watch the plate at the carburetor. Don't position your face near the carburetor, the engine could backfire. Well, yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. When the engine starts, the choke plate should open slightly. So like I said, if it is totally closed, like it was on my car, as soon as the engine fires over, the thermostatic spring should open the choke plate up enough that it will not flood itself out. Allow the engine to continue running at idle speed. As the engine warms up to operating temperatures, the plate should slowly open, allowing more air to enter through the top of the carburetor. After a few minutes, the choke plate should be fully open to the vertical position, so like it was in mine. Once the engine warmed up for about 2-3 minutes, it should be open, and then the time would be to knock the choke off, so it would allow it to rest at idle speed. Keep in mind, when I made the video earlier with my 85, I had just woke up, so things could be a little confusing. Where was I? After a few minutes, the choke plate should be fully open to vertical position. Blip the throttle to make sure the fast idle cam disengages. So like I said, your fast idle cam, if it's not set properly, your engine could stall and then you'd have to pump it some more to try and get it going again. Well, you shouldn't have to if it's properly adjusted. You'll notice that the engine speed corresponds with the plate opening. With the plate fully closed, the engine should run at fast idle speed. So on my 85 Caprice, the GM recommends 1850 RPM on the first step of the choke cam. As the plate opens and the throttle is moved to disengage the fast idle cam, the engine speed will decrease. So once the plate is open and you blip the throttle to knock the choke off, it should rest on the regular idle set screw, or idle cam is what I call it. And it should idle at around 500-600 RPM. So I hope this makes sense of it all. I don't know, maybe you already have one of these, maybe you already knew that. Like I said, if you have to adjust it, there is nothing to it. Just turn your thermostatic spring to the counterclockwise or clockwise. Counterclockwise to make it richer, counterclockwise to make it leaner. Don't send your car to a mechanic, you're just wasting your time. Hope that helps a bit. Properly adjusted choke does not require a hell of a lot of pumping if you have it adjusted properly. I just tapped it. And you can hear the choke plate closing shut on the carburetor. A lot of you think I'm nuts. Oh yeah, the car's not going to start, you're going to have to pump it. Watch and see.